When you step inside these places, you can feel it, the colors, the light, and the presence of community. These walls have welcomed the weary, the searching, and the joyful alike. They remind us that hope is not just history, it is alive and offered to us today.
That's Birmingham photographer David Graves sharing with us here at Tab Media Group about his new coffee table book, Alabama Hope, following on the heels of his book, Alabama Faith. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash, and welcome to this special feature on coffee table books and how they are expressing hope and faith for the community at large. David, thanks for joining us.
It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so David's nearby. He's a member of the church at Brook Hills.
That's correct.
He's here in Birmingham. He's an excellent photographer. Oh, my goodness. And I am so excited about these books. But David, let's talk about, I want to talk about so many angles, but the hope and the faith aspect.
Right.
Talk to me about that. How did you land just even thinking about these topics and going in that direction?
It's funny that you mentioned, I was pondering that question this past week when I was hiking of why did it come across those names? The first one, Alabama Faith,
right, was
simply because that childhood memory. My dad, Christmas Eve, they had decided they weren't going to have a Sunday night service. He took me and my brothers to church, left the lights off, and seeing that light hit the pews, I knew would be special.
Oh, wow.
And when I shared that with a friend a couple years ago, they said, hey, you should capture this. And once I took the first picture, I knew the first book, Alabama Faith, was just going to be about an expression of the windows around the state of Alabama.
Ooh,
but
yes.
Then as I began to do interviews, press interviews, media, etc., talking about Alabama Faith, I found myself talking more about the hope that we have in the stories of these windows, and that's how we landed on the name for the second book, Alabama Hope.
You know, because when I saw the first one come out, it was interesting then to see the second one and go, wait, he took this to another level, so that makes sense. So
Right.
It's the beauty of them, just the artistry in itself,
Sure.
and then the stories behind them, and then what you were talking about as far as the colors, the light, the presence of community, all of that. And I know we've all been in churches at some point with a stained glass window, or we've
Right.
been somewhere with a stained glass window. But your work is encouraging me to stare at those windows a little bit more, and to try to read the
Right.
story in it.
Even I would encourage the people who listen today, I will profess my guilt in this area.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of times when I show up for church. I live close, half mile from church. I get there 10 minutes early. I go shake hands to the same people.
Right.
I come in. I go talk to my people. We take our normal seats. And oftentimes I will forget to stand in the back of the room and think about all the lives that have been changed as a result of either the stories that these windows tell or in light of the gospel, that as we look back, we have reflective hope of all the lives changed, which is why we're here today. But also it should get us excited that somebody's life can change this very day as a result of faith and hope. And it's expressed in how we treat one another, along with the story of these windows for sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you think that churches way back in the beginning that started doing stained glass windows, do you think they were hoping for some kind of extra message to be there for their people?
I think it was their way of expressing first fruits for the glory of God and for the sake of his kingdom, is they were being extravagant to break open that bottle of perfume and pour it on Jesus' feet. Mm-hmm. They were going beyond financially to make these gorgeous artistic windows. In Alabama, there's Tiffany windows from the 1870, 1920 period in various places, Selma, Uniontown. I could go on and on, different places. And those are such special windows because you can't remake them, can't redo them.
Oh, wow.
But people wanted to make much of the gospel. Think about when people first came and settled in Alabama, there was a high illiteracy rate
Good point.
back in the
Good point.
1800s. So as a pastor, a rector, whomever, is speaking to the congregation about the gospel and they're telling a story, those congregates can look up
Wow.
and see that story in a window that then helps encourage their faith and help the story come to life.
Excellent point.
Yeah,
Excellent
yeah.
point. Well, how did you find all of these windows? What was your process?
So the first one was not by accident, but it's my full-time job in pharmaceutical sales. I was on my way to Gunnersville,
Okay.
and I keep my camera gear in my trunk most of the time ready to go. And right as I was about to turn right, I was in Palmerdale, and I looked to my left, and there was, at the time, it was called Palmerdale Methodist Church.
Okay.
I went and knocked on the door and simply said, "Hey, I'm a photographer. Can I take a picture of your windows?" And when I took the first pictures, that's when I knew this is going to be a project. So I just began to research
Okay.
who has it. I knew places like Selma I'd want to include in the first book because some of the oldest stained glass in Alabama is in Selma,
Okay.
and which is First Baptist Selma, has Tiffany windows in it as part of theirs. And so I just branched out to some of the major places. And then the second book, I tried to go and catch places that I hadn't before.
Okay.
Evergreen, Dothan, Andalusia, Jasper,
Nice.
and kind of complement, as well as the second book has historical black churches and Jewish synagogues in it, which allowed me just a robustness to reflect the faith heritage that Alabama has.
Right. And I know you have more than 200 houses of worship represented. Is
Yeah,
that
I
correct?
think between the
between
two,
books?
let's see, 75 in the first one, 60 in the second. So about 135. Ended up taking over 2,000 pictures.
Wow.
The first book, Alabama of Faith, took almost 16 months to complete just because the
Yeah.
emotional toil of trying to decide what pictures made it in the book.
Right.
The second one was much easier just because I knew the process.
Right.
But
So
I
the
have
more than 200 would be the number of photographs in the books,
there's
right? And between the two. Is
Yeah,
that right?
there's more than
Okay.
two. It's about I think 250 photos
Out of the
between both books.
130 churches in both books. Okay, wow, that's fantastic.
And all the churches too, just so people understand the process. All these churches that I took pictures of, I took maybe, we'll say, for example, 20 pictures of a church. I edited all of those photos and gifted them back to the church.
Oh, wow.
That they could use in any way, with all the language that says these now belong to you, use in any way you would like,
Right.
in exchange for me choosing a few to put into the book.
Nice.
So now you have some churches who couldn't have afforded to have professional photographs or somebody else's perspective to come in. They've all been gifted back to them to be able to
Nice.
use any way they would like, because it's something we want not just to hoard to ourselves, but to go,
Right.
if this can encourage other people in their faith, please let's disseminate all of these so that they can be done that
That's
way.
so
Yeah.
great. So 2,000 photos,
Yeah.
whittled down to about 200, a little bit more than 200.
Yeah.
How did you choose?
It's a painful process. Again, the first book, it was to the point that it was caused me a little bit of anxiety,
Really?
which is super rare. But I wrestled so much with this one or that one, and in the end, it really didn't matter as much which one I thought. The funny story from the first book is the first person I showed the completed book to was my sister. It was just important. I wanted her to see the work.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "What's your favorite?" And as she's flipping through it, I would say, "Oh, this one and this one and this one." She said, "Hey, they can't all be your favorite." I said, "They can if you took over 1,000 pictures and there's only 135.
You're like, my favorite made it to the book,
That's
right?
That's right. But come to find out, in either book, I have a few of my favorites that I most enjoy, to me personally. Anybody else who looks through the book, very rarely do they choose the same photo as their favorite as what mine are.
Really?
Because in our lens of life and what shaped us, both where we've come from and where we are,
Yeah.
there are different things in there that resonate to us that'll bring up a memory,
Okay.
right? So
Okay.
one of the goals of both books is this. We live in such a divided time, and it's us versus them, or I'm for this, I'm against that, and everything. If we spent more time professing our faith, talking about the moments that faith or hope intercepted our own jacked up and broken life, more people would be attracted to the gospel.
Wow.
They're not so much concerned about what I'm against. They want to hear that I believe every life has worth and dignity and respect. They want to hear about my life being completely broken and Jesus never giving up on me. They want to hear that grace isn't just a story about somebody in the Bible, but that lives are redeemed today. No one is beyond redemption. That's what people need and are desperate to hear. You look at any headlines from this week, and we then present the gospel in light of those headlines and can see the church humbling themselves to serve other people. Man, what greater call do we have than to share our faith and the hope that we have that has been given to us through Christ?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, you're so right. If we could apply every time, just apply
Yeah.
that, apply the gospel straight up.
Right.
You're so right. Oh, okay. Birmingham photographer David Graves sharing about his new coffee table book, Alabama Hope, and the one just prior to that, Alabama Faith. We are so excited to have him here in the studio at Tab Media Group. I'm your host, Jennifer Rash. David is a member of the church at Brook Hills and, if I remember correctly, a graduate of the University of Mobile.
That's right. Hometown of Thomasville, too.
Thomasville. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, photography. Let's go there for a moment. Did you
Great.
study photography in school? Were you already doing that as just a natural gifted?
No, actually, so I will say this about Thomasville before we talk about the photography. I have to tell you, the church I grew up in was a church plant.
Okay.
From First Baptist Thomasville, planted a church in the 60s, the south side of town, to reach needy people.
Okay.
Our family grew up so poor. So many people in Thomasville loved our family well, and I want to make sure just to highlight those people at Pineview Baptist who loved us so well. Now,
Hey, Pineview Baptist, there are
yes,
dedicated, faithful readers of the Alabama Baptist, so
Yeah.
shout out to them as well.
that's
We
right.
love
They are
that.
the last church in the first book because, again,
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
accept a penny from anybody to put this together. I fully funded the entire
Wow.
project. So the last three churches in Alabama Faith are in Thomasville. I'm so proud to call that my hometown. In the second book, University of Mobile is included in Alabama Hope, and Brook Hills is the last church because, again, I can do that since nobody funded the
I
project.
love it.
I can put it
I
where
mean,
I
it's
want
your
it.
book, right?
That's right. So photography.
Yes.
Growing up poor, I didn't know what taking a vacation meant. My dad worked nonstop to provide for a family of 6. And one of the results was growing up in the professional world and just work.
Right.
I had a dear friend, Joey Coons, as we sat across the table for lunch one day, he just said, "Hey, you're good at what you do, but you're not living fully by learning how to rest. You need to learn how to rest." And from that conversation, I said, I'd like to create a bucket list. And I made a couple of places: Ireland, Iceland, Scotland, top 3. Family heritage is Ireland, Scotland. And when I made that initial plan to go to Ireland, I thought, this was 2017.
Okay.
I said, I'd really like to take great pictures. And so I bought a Sony camera and started taking pictures, and come to find out it was one of my natural giftings that I'd never known about until I
Really?
began to take pictures.
Wow.
So I've only been in photography about 8 years, and about 4 years into it was really when my craft began to be refined to the point of people taking notice,
Yeah.
and that's when it kind of took off from there. The beautiful thing about having a full-time job and then photography being my second full-time job is I can say yes or no to any project that brings me passion. I don't have to, please hear this in a very loving way, I don't have to take pictures of your dog's birthday party
Right.
to try and make money.
Right.
I already make money. So
Yeah.
now I can just do the things that I feel reflect the glory of
Right.
God and
Oh, yeah.
make much of what I have to bring to the table for the sake of the kingdom.
That's so fantastic. I love that.
Yeah.
Love that you discovered that.
Yeah.
Well, tell me what did you major in at University of Mobile?
I actually did religious studies at Mobile, where a lot of my friends ended up going to seminary. I knew seminary was never what I was going to do. I knew I wanted to work in sales and
Right.
ultimately be in pharmaceutical sales. But that, I tell you, my time at University of Mobile, some of those friendships, I have a group of guys, it's called House 12. We've known each other 30 years. We have gotten together the last 12 years. They're scattered all over the country. Those relationships in college of people who have seen you at your best and at your worst,
Right.
and who still walk with you.
They're still your friends,
Are
right?
still,
Yes.
Kathy Dean is such a precious soul at University of Mobile.
She's a good friend. A
Yeah,
really good
and
friend.
she has been such an encouragement too. But that's such a special place. So
Yeah.
I would tell people, as this time of year, as you're considering where to send off your children for the sake of the kingdom, University of Mobile has a new slogan for Christ and His kingdom that I absolutely love, and would encourage anybody to explore University of Mobile as their path, because it is such a special place and special people there.
Yeah, we love working with them as well. We're all kind of in the same little pool
right.
at the University of Mobile, Stanford University, the Alabama Baptist.
That's right.
Children's Homes, Shaco, Historical Commission,
Yeah.
Baptist Foundation of Alabama.
Wow.
Wow. Retirement centers. We're all kind of in this together. So it's fun working with all of them as we all work
Right.
to keep the gospel in front of people and keep moving toward building the kingdom in every which way we can. You know?
And the beautiful thing there, and all those things you mentioned, it's not necessarily working in churches. We're making much of the kingdom with whatever
Wow.
talents we've been gifted
That's so good.
to simply say, whether I'm taking a picture at sunrise sitting at King's Chair, it is for the believer and the unbeliever to see the glory of God a moment in time. Same thing with this book. Every window, a moment in time, for the sake of the kingdom and to make much of the gospel. That is the underlying tone of our life. It should be.
Right.
Hopefully, that's the prayer that it is.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
good. That's so good. We featured, when you came out with Alabama Faith, we were able to feature
That's right.
the book and you were so kind to let us use some of the photographs.
Yes.
And then we used one for a front page feature.
Yes.
And then we did a little just update when you came out with Alabama Hope. So we've had the best time getting to share your story and let
thank you.
people know about this. But just to get to use your imagery, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, just the photos are just so impactful.
I think the cover picture that you used was First Baptist Foley. And the great story there, they were so kind and gracious to give me access, but their church is a typical Baptist church in some places, a little bit bigger. You have a choir loft, and above the choir loft, you have a baptistry that you have to go down into.
Right.
Well, their stained glass sits above that baptistry, and I just, of course, always ask permission wherever I go.
Right.
I said, do you mind if I stand in the baptistry? I stood in the baptistry, and the sun was coming across the window pane, and I just stood there. I didn't take multiple pictures. I kind of knew in my mind the shot I was looking for. And at one point, he even said, hey, are you okay? I was like, just give me a minute. I'm just waiting. So that photo, First Baptist Foley, is one shot. It wasn't, I
One
took 10
shot?
pictures. I waited, and it was a single picture taken, froze a moment in time, as the sun's right underneath the corner of the cross and this reflection on the floor. It made my heart so happy just to go, yes, it was a single picture. Which is a unique and
You
fun
grabbed
little
it.
story. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, in the world of digital photography now, we take millions really, and you have. I saw a meme the other day where it's a person holding the old school film camera,
Right.
and they say, "Whew, I'm getting these developed," and they look and they go, "Okay, 24 photos, one good shot,"
Right.
and then they show a photographer with his digital camera. Whew, okay, 2,000 photos. One good shot. And so I was
Right.
it made me laugh because if you're right, if you're really focused on what you're doing and thinking about it and you can grab that shot, it doesn't matter if you can do 2,000 or you can do 12 or you can do 1.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing I tried to learn early on was learn my camera to the point that I didn't have to take it away from my eyes to adjust settings.
Oh,
So that
okay,
as I'm
okay.
looking at something, I can stay focused on it. And I've got 3 different things I do. Middle finger's doing a thing on the top, pointer finger's adjusting something, and then my thumb does this circular dial. And so I can do those while I'm still focused to where I don't have to move. And then even when I use the sunrise at King's Chair, which is one of my favorite things to do on a weekly basis, I don't take 100 photos. I take 3, maybe 4. One, I don't want to miss out on what's happening. But secondly, I do want to kind of capture the essence of the moment.
Yeah.
At the same time, as I mentioned, I would love for people to be encouraged to take that extra moment when they walk into these sacred spaces and think about all the lives that have been changed, and just take a moment to go, how exciting that somebody's life is going to be different today. And it could change their life changing could have ripple effects through generations. It could break addiction. It could set a family free. It could be a father who for the first time hears the gospel and as a result spends more time with his kids. A wife who humbles herself in the home and becomes more softer in the way that she encourages her husband. It could be a child who's been wayward, who has gone out and spent their entire inheritance, and all of a sudden they realize grace still applies to them. Those are the things that excite me the most. When I've had friends walk through the book and I just say, hey, as you flip through it, when you find a page, I don't care what the page is, flip it open. I promise you I'll have a story about that window.
I love it.
And it is the best. It would almost be like cooking dinner. If I cook dinner for you, I'm not even going to take a bite. I'm going to watch and see if you enjoy it first. So when I see people open the pages of the book and I kind of see their hearts start to be encouraged, it makes every mile, every photo, the 2,000 photos, the hundreds of hours spent doing this, it makes every moment worth it for the sake of somebody just having that seed of hope or faith planted into their life. It's so encouraging.
That really is.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Well, go back a little on your own faith journey. Tell us a little bit more from the beginnings and how you've wandered.
Yeah, we grew up poor, but from the sake of growing up poor, we knew we were deeply loved and came to faith as a teenager. But I had a warped sense of the gospel. I for whatever reason, thought, hey, as long as we attend church, then I can still do what I want to do. And that route played itself out through college and even to my adult life until, by God's grace, my life was truly intercepted by the full gospel, which says, I am who he said I am. What he said is true. My life can be built on this truth, no shadows, no hiding. And again, it goes back to the men of House 12 and other friends, Chad, Josh, Smitty, Greg Oliver, Tal Prince, other people men who run into my life and who have seen me through seasons and who can see blind spots, but more so who we preach the gospel not only to ourselves, but to others. We preach it to others, but often we need to be reminded of it ourselves. So in my journey, those people came along and helped me discover a true gospel, which in turn allowed me to live out a transparent life for the sake of the kingdom. And I'm so, so grateful. Like even today, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. Our men's group meets tonight at 6:30, and I'm excited to see those guys, to be able to encourage them. And
do you think a group is vital in the journey of just growing and developing? And
I told the story last night to a dear friend. I had a guy reach out to me last year that I think my wife and I are getting a divorce and it's imminent. And I said, well, first of all, because I'm single, let's get you connected to a married couple who can encourage you and can do this. I said, but secondly, man to man, let me ask you two things. Where do you go to church? What small group are you in?
Wow.
And the answer was, well, and when it starts with well, I said, first, no matter what happens in your situation, let me encourage you, be involved in your local church, get into a small group, because there are times, I'll use my dear friend Chad, love this guy. We mention it as like he's the offensive coordinator in my life. He sits in the press box and can look down.
Wow.
He can see something beginning to happen before it happens, right? And so if you're surrounded by people who first love Christ, but also love you for the sake of Christ and his kingdom, us pointing out blind spots to each other or seeing rhythms of life can help us avoid certain either temptations or pitfalls, but we can also be encouraged that there are people who are looking out for us. So that's why being plugged into your local church, committed to your local church, and being part of a consistent small group are preeminent, along with opening God's Word on a daily basis. We forfeit so much by simply not opening God's eternal Word on a daily basis to speak truth into our lives. We worry about things we wouldn't worry about if we read his word. We're anxious about reading headlines. We spend more time on social media and headlines than we do his word. So that would be another encouragement. Great pictures, be encouraged in your faith and hope. But man, read God's word every day, plug into your local church, get involved in a small group.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Really good, really good. And again, and I would say definitely have this book right here to help just give you that
That's
little
right.
extra push. Oh, these are, I'm flipping through right now, and they are beautiful. I can't wait to just sit with each one.
I would say this, in the back there, blank pages, I would encourage people, write down a memory that it brings to you.
Oh, that's
because I never knew how my dad came to faith until his funeral, and my aunt gave such a precious treasure by sitting down with me and telling me how he came to faith.
Oh,
that he was asleep in the bed, and she came in and said, "Hey, Marvin," she begged him every week to go to church, and he was like, "No." And one week she begged him, and as she walked out, he said, "Give me a minute." And oh man, they went to church together, and somehow they got separated, and she came home, and he came through the front door, and he said, "Elaine, the Lord called me." And I wept like a baby because she said his life was different from that day. What a great treasure we would have just to tell those closest to us about how hope and faith intercepted our life.
Why do you think we don't think to do that, David? You know, it's just the fact that you
Sure.
you didn't know your dad's story.
Right.
I can, that makes my mind go in a million ways, but I can think of a lot of people where I'm close to, but I don't know their story.
Right.
I wonder why we don't do that.
Because it's easier to look at somebody else's life in high definition and view ours in a very vague sense.
Okay.
And it makes us really vulnerable to say, before I knew Christ, I was a liar, cheater, and a thief. And apart from Christ, I'm just as wretched as any story you see on TV. We want to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. But the reality is, we make much of Christ by telling the truth about our story. Paul did it. The Bible goes out of its way to point out the brokenness of these characters and these lives to make much of the gospel, for sure.
So good, so good. All right, so we've just summarized a little bit. Let's see. God's Word, daily.
Amen.
Part of a local church.
Amen.
And beyond that even.
That's right.
A small group inside that local church.
That's right.
And I love, too, what you said, taking a few minutes just to actually observe.
Right.
And think and appreciate and be ready to see what's God going to do in this.
That's right.
In this moment. And give me one tip. Also, this is a little bit off the side here, but somebody thinking, I want to explore photography. I want to go out there. I want to figure this out. You're doing these amazing jobs with stained glass windows. What's the first step if they're self-taught? What's one or two things somebody could say? Here I am, and I want to do a little bit better.
Start taking pictures and experiment.
Okay.
I mean, you'll learn through failing. You're never going to be great at something until you're bad at it first.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Right? So that's the reality.
And then learn.
Right. And then you can there's so many courses available. All right, I'm going to give you this last nugget because I know we're wrapping up pretty close. There will be a third book called Alabama Love.
Oh,
It'll
Faith,
be a
Hope,
love.
and Love.
That's right.
Yay,
and
I love
it's
it.
going to be about people around the state of Alabama, and it's asking them two questions. Tell us about a time faith or hope intercepted your life.
Wow.
Tell us something about Alabama you wish other people knew. It's going to be in black and white because ultimately it doesn't matter about the story of these windows and all the beauty. If it doesn't translate in how we treat others, it's all for naught. So faith, hope, and love, most important, is love.
You heard it here first.
That's
Tab
right.
Media Group special report with David Graves, Birmingham photographer and evangelist, I think, maybe. What do you think?
And by God's grace, let's make much of him.
All right, David, tell us how we can get this book.
Go to Amazon.
Or any of the books, actually.
Yeah, you can go to Amazon. Also, check with your local bookstore in Birmingham. It's already in Mountain Brook, Smith Variety, Little Professor, Homewood.
All right.
Be happy.
And y'all, David's about to go on the circuit. He's going to be with Katie Britt, Senator Katie Britt.
In
He's going to be with
December.
Alabama Governor Kay Ivey. He's
That's
going to
right.
be. So, all right, remember, you heard him here first, but
That's
he's
right.
about to go big time. So,
By God's
congrats,
grace.
David.
Thank you
Congrats.
so much. Thank you for having me.